Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. Good morning, my name is Olive Monica Najuma and I am wondering, how is your morning so far? I know we are just 32 minutes into the hour of 6 o'clock this Thursday morning, and I am wondering, how is your day going to be? Do you have a plan? Do you have a goal for the day? What have you planned to make this day better than it was yesterday? And of course, what are you planning to do so that you close your week in style? I was already gonna say weekend because the weekend is very soon, but today, as we focus on Thursday, I want us to look back in time and think about the things that have made our lives feel special. It could be a moment, it could be someone, it could be anything, because today is a Throwback Thursday. So what are you throwing back to? There are so many things to think about, to throw back to. It could be a song, it could be a moment in time, it could be a person that you used to know at the time. What is that one thing that you would like to throw back to this morning on Good Morning Uganda? Well, my name is Olive Monica Najuma and I am joined by Chantal Olive Akandinda and Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm fine. I like your color combination, black and red.
Thank you, thank
but
you.
But Valentine's is far gone.
Oh no, I don't do that. You will never find me in a red anything on Valentine's Day. No.
Oh, mitima jakaluba.
No, not that. Mitima jakaluba. But honestly speaking, everyone during Valentine's is wearing the same color, and I don't like uniform. I hated uniform. That's one thing I don't miss about high school. So no, I'm not gonna throw back to that, whether on Valentine's Day or even today. But what are you throwing back to this morning?
Well, I'm throwing back to something that happened to me yesterday when I first became a father.
Oh, wow.
And yesterday I had a talk with my little boy, and I saw how he was asking very important questions. And I'm like,
you were born yesterday.
You were born yesterday, and today you even are holding me accountable on certain issues. And someone told me, no, Robert, kids of today are like that. I had become a traditional father, but going back to our days.
But you see, even us, the Baganda, we are told that negoza de akubire ngoma nozina. Simply translated as, even the person that you gave birth to can beat the drum and then you dance.
This guy
direct
comes up and says, Daddy, I don't like it when you lie to me.
Oh, wow.
I'm like,
that was deep.
In my day and time at this age,
how dare you?
How dare you tell your father? You promised me this before the holiday ends. Now I'm back to school, I'm not seeing it.
You didn't do it.
I don't like it when you lie to me.
Oh, wow.
And it was serious, and I said, you.
If we are changing generation,
just few years back, it was a complicated day. And now here you are holding me accountable.
But of course,
you even know to look for money. But of course, those I said within my heart. I'm like, our days, there are things you could never tell your mom. I remember one of the commonest things that there is, if a visitor would come home and your father was in the washrooms, or your mother, those that grew up in a village setting, of course, it wasn't like today where the indoor had to be some distance, and you made a mistake and they asked you, Tata wali luddawa, meaning where is your father?
And you mentioned
said,
the word.
Arimu, he's in, as if they used never to go there. But you'd get a thorough beating. So you had to find ways of,
in public.
He's around.
No, you know how the English say, I was powdering my nose to mean you had visited that place. You have to have a play on the language so that you don't sound crass. But anyway, that being said, good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Olive. How are you? You look so lovely in the red.
Thank
very,
you
very
so
lovely.
much. Thank you. So what are you throwing back to this morning?
Well, I'm just throwing back to the days that I never believed that people could actually be there for you and have your back without expecting anything in return. If you are someone that has always been on the on the giving end, and then time comes and you're not on the receiving end, and this cuts across male, female. It's for me, it was I think this was like 2020 majorly. That year really taught me that you don't have to do, you just have to be nice to people and do what you have to do, and it will come back to you in very many folds. So I'm just throwing back to, especially to my friends, they know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
So they have been there for
lovely.
you and expecting nothing in return?
Yes.
That's why Shirama was dying.
I don't know why he's laughing.
You know why I laugh?
sarcastically.
Why did you laugh? Because it's like something came to your
Because
mind.
she's like talking about days when people would be there for you and expect nothing in return.
And
Exactly.
today it's not
And I'm
happening.
like, sister, if you're still moving with that mentality, that people are going to do certain things for you and they expect nothing from you.
I think that happens with
No,
your gender.
that-
Your
Yes,
gender
exactly.
is the one that
And I'm
likes
actually
to
not
put things
shocked.
and put
I'm not
conditions
shocked
onto
that
them.
I'm not shocked that Robert is laughing, because usually these men do things with a lot of expectations
That's
in
true.
return. And me, I'm actually talking about female people. I'm talking about females, not males. I cannot
But
speak
they
for the
are-
males
they are
because
also good
you are
men.
This
very
very
kind
week-
human beings.
I think this week I saw where a court told a lady to pay back, is it 14 million? Then there was also this teacher in the Western Uganda who took her girlfriend to court because
But you
he
see,
was
with the
investing, and
Western
the girl was
Uganda
like, it's
case,
okay.
no, in the Western Uganda case, the lady made the man believe that she would
She's
get
going to
married to him
yes.
after school. And after school, she refused, okay? And the gentleman went to court and he said, I spent this money, I took her back to school, I did everything in the hope that she was going to become my wife. And now that she has refused to become my wife, I need my money back. And honestly, I like that the judge ruled in the man's favor, because this happens a lot where men go above and beyond for ladies and the ladies disappoint them at the end of the day. But in my case, I am throwing back to the parents that would receive our money from visitors and not pay it back, and when you ask for it, they ask you if you're the one who buys the food. Wow, our parents. And if today you are a parent and you're doing that, you've not learned anything from the past. Basically, you're old wine in a new bottle.
Thank you. You're transferring your experience to the lives of your kids, and that's away from that. That's like what I was trying to say. There's been a transition in the way things have been happening. We no longer see parents actually take money from kids. It rarely happens unless
Are you
otherwise.
They
sure?
have big
I'm
banks
I'm
of
saying
today.
rarely.
Ask the two parents on that set.
I'm saying rarely. Plus, they have piggy banks. These
Piggy
kids will
banks,
actually
yes.
run and drop the
Chirawa,
money in
do
the
you
piggy
give
bank.
your child his money back? Be honest.
Me, I even have a weekly amount I'm supposed to give for that piggy
Oh,
bank. I
wow.
don't know how it entered my
No,
home.
leave alone the piggy bank. How about the money he receives from guests, from his
Can you
mom,
touch it?
the tooth fairy? Eh?
If you want peace in the home, you can't touch that money. These kids know money, and these kids are so open, you
Like
know.
I say, times have changed.
Times have changed.
Me, I borrow my children's money, but I think I have
Mothers
a
never
lot of
return that
arrears.
money. Mothers,
You
will never
guys,
return
we
that
are the
money.
ones that buy that one cut chocolate, the sweet, the the impulse things. The dads don't have to touch that money, because for them they spend on big things and they are done. We are the spoilers. So if I borrow you 5K, please be understanding. But anyway, that being said, this is Good Morning Uganda, and if you're just joining us, thank you so much. We are always glad that you spend your morning with us. And this morning, as like every morning from Monday to Friday, we have so many insights for you. We have news, we have topical discussions, we have traffic updates, and all of that will be coming to you. And if you're the person who loves sports, we also have that for you later on as we go along. So please do not even think about switching off that television. You are in safe hands, because Good Morning Uganda is where everything that is amazing happens. Now this morning we have news that we have gathered for you, and I would like to delve into the local stories right about now.
Olive, before we dive into the local stories, I briefly, something to do with Champions League. You know, the men's Big Brother is Champions League. I don't want to say the women's Premier League is that one. But yes, we did have some matches yesterday. And Arsenal won 4-0. And then Manchester lost. I recently saw a post that said, Manchester and Chelsea should team up to make Man-Chelsea. The post I saw. But yesterday's matches, Arsenal won, and it's very good for the Roberts, because Robert...
Chirabo, why are you silent? I would expect you to be jumping
yes,
right
exactly.
now, because last time when I talked about Arsenal, you said it was a personal attack on you. And now you won.
Now you won. But you know, like I say, the interesting thing about Arsenal is that they know how to give away the cup. Close to the end. They're very generous beings.
You had to do that.
They're very generous beings.
Can we just go for the stories, please?
Anyway, let's delve into the local stories right about now.
Well, and we'll begin with His Excellency, who received credentials of envoys. Now, President Museveni received credentials of 4 new envoys to Uganda at a function held at State House Entebbe. The envoys who presented their credentials include the United States of America ambassador, the ambassador of Norway, the ambassador of Finland, and the ambassador of Palestine. During the function, President Museveni welcomed the new ambassadors to Uganda and assured them of government's commitment to work with them to strengthen the cordial relationship amongst the countries. On their part, the ambassadors also promised to work with Uganda basing on mutual respect and cooperation. The event was also attended by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in charge of regional cooperation, Honorable John Mulimba, among other Ministry of Foreign Affairs officials.
Away from that, the Inspector General of Government has presented to the Office of the Speaker of Parliament the biannual reports of the period covering January to June 2022, July to December 2022, and January to June 2023 under the fulfillment of Article 231, subsection 1 of the Constitution. In these reports, the IGG is asking for a new law to attach illicit assets, with 7.9 billion shillings recovered in that period and 43 convictions made. The Inspector General of Government, Betty Kamia, said out-of-court settlements are responsible for the rise in lost fund recoveries from corrupt officials.
And moving on, the newly elected interim president of the Forum for Democratic Change, Sarongo Elias Lukwago, and other members elected in different positions to replace the leadership of Amriyat and Nandala Mafabi are directing their enemies to rejuvenate the spirit of membership of the party to make it more vibrant and formidable to be able to deal with the existing challenges. During the exclusive interview, Lukwago said they are finalizing a comprehensive plan that details what they are set to do in the next 6 months. However, Patrick Amriyat maintained that there were no prior consultations conducted by the party chairperson regarding summoning of the delegates conference. He asserted that neither a secretary general, who is customized to the party records, nor the treasurer responsible for logistics and finance were consulted on the matter.
Moving on, the State Minister for Internal Affairs, Major General Kahindo Tafire, has urged the stakeholders in the tourism sector to adopt modern marketing strategies to promote Uganda as a tourism destination. Tafire was officiating at the Tourism Development Annual Performance Review and reiterated on the inadequate patriotism in tourism promotion. The 2022-23 Tourism Performance Report presented by the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities reveals a 53% recovery rate from the effects of COVID-19. The data presents a global scale rate of the Ugandan performance in tourism industry and provides insight into the issues that limit the realization of Uganda as a tourism industry. While reviewing this sector performance, Minister for Internal Affairs, Major General Kahindo Tafire, called on sector players to adopt modern marketing methods to promote Uganda as a tourism destination.
And internationally, Iran's parliament has passed a controversial bill that would increase prison terms and fines for women and girls who break its strict dress code. Those dressed inappropriately face up to 10 years in jail under the bill, for which a 3-year trial was agreed. It still needs to be approved by the Guardian Council to become law. The move comes a year after protests erupted over the death in custody of Masa Amini, who was held by morality police for an allegedly improper hijab. Women burnt their headscarves or waved them in the air at the nationwide demonstrations against the clerical establishment during which hundreds of people were reportedly killed in a crackdown by security forces. And away from that, French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed the United Kingdom's King Charles III at the Palace of Versailles on Wednesday, enjoying a festive dinner together after a ceremony at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. The British monarch arrived in the former home of French kings along with Queen Camilla shortly after 8 p.m. local time. After posing for photos on the red carpet, the pair joined other guests in the highlight of their 3-day visit to France, their first since Charles's coronation. Other guests at the event included Rolling Stones singer Mick Jagger, actor Hugh Grant, actress Charlotte Gainsbourg, head of luxury group LVMH Bernard Arnault, and former football star Patrick Vieira. Star chefs prepared a sumptuous meal of blue lobster, braised chicken, and rose macarons served on highly valued Sevres porcelain. And in Rwanda's President Paul Kagame has announced in an interview he will stand for re-election next year, hoping to extend nearly a quarter of a century in power. Kagame, who became president in 2000, is eligible to continue in office for another decade after a constitutional amendment in 2015 changed term limits that would have forced him to step down 2 years later. In an interview with the Pan-African Jeune Afrique magazine published on Tuesday, the 65-year-old was asked about his intentions for next year's election. "I am happy with the confidence that the Rwandans have shown in me. I will always serve them as much when I can. Yes, I am indeed a candidate," he said. Kagame won the last election in August 2017 for a 7-year term with 98.63% of the vote, according to the Electoral Commission. Now, crossing over to matters climate, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Wednesday told world leaders the climate crisis had opened the gates to hell during a summit where leading polluters China and United States were conspicuously absent. The talks were partly overshadowed by an announcement from Britain, also not present, that it was rolling back policies that would help it achieve its net zero goal. Despite increasing extreme weather events and record-shattering global temperatures, greenhouse gas emissions continue to rise and fossil fuels remain subsidized to the tune of $7 trillion annually. Guterres had billed the Climate Ambition Summit as a no-nonsense forum, making clear that only leaders who had made concrete plans to achieve net zero greenhouse emissions would be invited. And that's it for the climate news and also what is happening on the international scene.
Thank you, Chantal. Right about now, we will be delving into the news that have made it to the top, the stories that have made it to the headlines or the front pages of the local newspapers, and we'll be starting with Daily Monitor. It has a big headline: government sends team of 70 to UN meet. That and more you will find in the Daily Monitor. And of course, on the side of relationships, it was love at first sight. That is Godfrey. What is that all about? You will find out when you get yourself a copy this morning. And government to privatize Mutai Soroti Fruit Factory. And of course, UNEP to hire 60,000 exam invigilators. Downpour exposes Kampala's bare roads. That and more in the Daily Monitor. Now, the Lizard has something to say. Maybe there was a fishing expedition. That is in regards to the bare roads and the flooding that we saw yesterday. Now, moving on to the New Vision, it has a headline and it goes, tough ruling on Milo land sales. Court pronounces itself on Vibanja transactions. You will find that story and its details in the New Vision. Over 270 tender offers. And of course, in the new curriculum, Senior 6 Entrepreneurship, Senior 2 Physics and Mathematics. Then Uganda Cranes legend Barnabas Mwesiga dead. You'll find that story in the New Vision. And of course, experts analyze NSSF 7.5% growth, whereas where FDC wrangles, there is a question for you where FDC wrangles planned. And of course, the IGG probes 6,064 public servants over wealth. That and more in the local newspapers, that is the New Vision and the Daily Monitor. Now, Chantal, in the international news, you shared that banquet that was thrown by for King Charles by France's President Emmanuel Macron.
Yes.
We will not delve into the conversation of whatever food they were serving, but it sounded interesting.
Best believe. At some point, I thought I would struggle to pronounce some of the words, but thank God.
Oh, wow. I know. Anyway, we are going to take a short break. We will leave you with a song for the day. And when we come back, we will have a conversation in our newsreel regarding the drainage system in the city. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. Good morning. My name is Olive Monica Najuma and I am wondering, how is your morning so far? I know we are just .32 minutes into the hour of 6 o'clock this Thursday morning, and I am wondering, how is your day going to be? Do you have a plan? Do you have a goal for the day? What have you planned to make this day better than it was yesterday? And of course, what are you planning to do so that you close your week in style? I was already gonna say weekend because the weekend is very soon, but today, as we focus on Thursday, I want us to look back in time and think about the things that have made our lives feel special. It could be a moment, it could be someone, it could be anything, because what? Today is a Throwback Thursday. So what are you throwing back to? there are so many things to think about, to throw back to. It could be a song, it could be a moment in time, it could be a person that you used to know at the time. What is that one thing that you would like to throw back to this morning on Good Morning Uganda? Well, my name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am joined by Chantal Olive Akandinda and Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm fine. I like your color combination, black and red.
Thank you, thank
But
you.
Valentine's is far gone.
Oh no, I don't do that.
You don't
will
do that?
never find me in a red anything on Valentine's Day. No.
Oh, mitima jakaluba.
No, not that. Emitima tajakaluba. But honestly speaking, everyone during Valentine's is wearing the same color, and I don't like uniform. I hated uniform. That's one thing I don't miss about high school. So no, I'm not gonna throw back to that, whether on Valentine's Day or even today. But what are you throwing back to this morning?
Well, I'm throwing back to something that happened to me yesterday when I first became a father.
Oh wow.
You know, and yesterday I had a talk with my little boy, and I saw how he was asking very important questions, and I'm like,
You were born yesterday.
you were born yesterday, and
Yeah.
today you even are holding me accountable on certain issues. And someone told me, no, Robert, kids of today are like that. I had become a traditional father,
But
going
you
back
see-
to our days.
But
where
you
there are
see,
things-
even us, the Baganda, we are told that negoza de akubire ngoma nozina. Simply translated as even the person that you gave birth to can beat the drum and then you dance.
You know, this guy
Direct
comes up and
translation.
says, Daddy, I don't like it when you lie to me.
Oh wow,
I'm like,
that was deep.
in my day and time at this age,
How dare you?
how dare you tell your father? Huh? You promised me this before the holiday ends. Now I'm back to school, I'm not
And you
seeing it.
didn't do it.
I don't like it when you lie to me.
Oh wow.
And it was serious, and I said, you.
If we are changing generation,
Just
the truth is,
few years back, it was a complicated day. And now here you are holding me accountable.
But of course.
You even know to look for money, but of course those I said within my heart. I'm like, our days, there are things you could never tell your mom. I remember one of the commonest things that they use, if a visitor would come home and your father was in the washrooms or your mother, those that grew up in a village setting, of course it wasn't like today where the indoor had to be some distance, and you made a mistake and they asked you, Tata wali luddawa, meaning where is your father?
And you mentioned
said,
the word.
Arimu, he's in, as if they used never to go there. But you'd get a thorough beating. So you had to find ways of
in public.
he's around,
around.
wali.
No, you know how the English say, you know, I was powdering my nose to mean you had visited that place. You have to have a play on the language so that you don't sound crass. But anyway, that being said, good morning, Chantal.
good morning, Olive. How are you? You look so lovely in the red.
Thank you.
Very
Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
My name is Atube Richard, a member of a group called Kanyope, located in Bungatira sub-county. This group started in 2008, but the Prelnol project started supporting us in 2009. The project has offered us training on farming, and the training we got has helped us immensely. We used to farm in a traditional way, planting a variety of crops. But when the team from Prelnor approached us, they asked us to choose particular seeds to grow which can yield very well in our area. We chose groundnuts and rice, which we are growing. With this kind of farming, the project also taught us how to sell as a group after finding a market. The support from the project has been so good to us.
What's the best kind of business to invest in? one that connects Ugandans border to border with high-speed broadband 4G and is the first to launch 5G? What about one of the largest corporate income taxpayers in our country? Oh, the fastest growing telecom in the last 5 years. Wow! Well, here's the chance to invest it all. Take part in Airtel's initial public offering today for as little as 100 Ugandan shillings per share. Remember, a retail investor gets 5 incentive shares for every 100 they buy and 6 incentive shares if they purchase using Airtel Money. Dial star 185 star 85 hash now to get started.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for keeping it UBC television and of course watching Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and right about now in this newsreel we are going to delve into the issue that is the drainage system of Kampala City. Now yesterday we saw videos that made rounds on social media after a downpour for a few hours that made our city look like a river, or in some places a lake, or something close to that. And of course it ignited questions around the drainage system of the city. And of course many commentators said that probably something is not done well, was not done well in the beginning when the city was formed. Others argued that the city was formed for a given number of people and a lot has happened over the years. And of course there were arguments that some buildings, like where we saw cars being literally covered by water, and some sections I saw a branch of a certain bank covered by water, and the business was halted. And some people argue that some of these buildings are in a swampy area. But then again, who gives the licenses to these to the owners, to the proprietors of these establishments to construct these buildings where they are right now? And we decided to have this conversation and these questions answered by someone from Kampala Capital City Authority. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda, Mr. Simon Kasyate.
Good morning, Oliver Najuma. You brought the wrong guy to answer these questions, I'm afraid, but yeah, we'll try.
Well, you are the spokesperson of Kampala Capital City Authority. And of course, some people say spokespeople are like lawyers, but we will delve into that off air.
Now, okay, you brought me here to be insulted?
No, no insults.
But you're right.
No insults. But of course, these are pertinent questions.
True.
And this is our city. And what we saw yesterday, and we've seen this happening different times when it rains. So maybe the first question here is, should we always prepare, maybe buy small boats when the rainy season is announced?
Not quite. Olive, let me just take you back down memory lane.
Yes.
Our beautiful city of Kampala was set on wonderful undulating 7 hills. So for every hill, there is a valley.
Yes.
And for the most part, every valley between hills in Kampala, look around you. Between the Mbuya Hill and the Chireka Hill, there is the Chinawataka Swamp. Between the Muyenga Hill and the Buziga Hill, there is the Bungasoya Swamp. Between Nakasero Hill and Old Kampala Hill, which is Namirembe, there is the Nachivo Swamp. I've just mentioned swamps.
Yes.
In name. When you go to those locations, are those swamps still there?
No.
There's a place called Chitandi.
Yes.
Between Kololo and Nakasero Hill. It was named Chitandi because in there was such a swamp that cows coming in from Mulago could never cross to Nakasero. Why? Because it was so mushy and soggy. And why was it like that? Because God created it in such a way that it sucks in all the water coming downhill from the respective hills. Make no mistake, this Kololo hill that you see is so leafy and green was just a bare hill less than 70 years ago. Not a single tree on there. It was just a bare hill. Those trees you see there were planted. So what have we done to Mother Nature? And like they say, Kama doesn't miss its address.
No.
In Uganda they say, amazi gakulukutira
Gakulukutira. Yes.
So what you saw yesterday was nature taking its rightful place against our wanton and non-intentional reclamation of nature's pathways. There are places like Netherlands which did not only just reclaim nature but have reclaimed land right from the seabed. Netherlands as it is set below sea level. Ports like Rotterdam are below sea level. But this was done intentionally from the word go and done meticulously with science. But here, what you see in Kampala is everyone doing what they feel like because they can do it. They are in total disregard of the rules and regulations in place. I heard you say, who gives the licenses to these folks to build in these wetlands? Olive, I want to challenge you and anyone listening to us this morning to present to us one, not two, but just one stamped license from KCCA allowing for construction in a wetland.
Okay, now when you say
so you
that,
ask, how come there's construction in
but
wetlands?
Simon, when you say that, it feels like you're trying to exempt KCCA from this, because you can't tell me that these multi-billion sites or buildings come up and the regulator doesn't know.
Not that we do not know.
They like you're helpless.
Olive, no, we're not helpless. I am here to try and speak to you candidly.
Okay.
And you see, the moment we begin to find the scapegoat, the guy to blame, oh, wait a minute, Olive, that's the day we lose what it calls to be responsible as an individual. Olive, UBC is not a building.
No.
UBC is a combination of people like Olive, Chirabo, Maurice Mugisha, and everyone else, Odoch and all the others. The collective sum of the individual actions that you individually make, Ruatoro, the guy on the camera, you, the one on the set, the other guy behind the screens, is what makes UBC what it is. Likewise, Kampala is not just a Kampala.
Yes.
Okay, this is not just KCCA. It's the individual actions of all of us in this city. Now, I'm bringing it to all of us to say our little individual actions as people in this city. When you Olive drink a bottle of water and you throw it out of the window and it finds its way to the drainage channel, and there's thousands of you doing that, there will be 1,000 bottles in the Nashibubo channel. Channel, however big it was created to create all the water coming down, it will be clogged by the 1,000 bottles yourself and I put there. And when it floods, strangely, we don't realize that our little action of throwing one bottle out is the culmination of what we see as floods.
Okay.
So I'm here to say, look, let us, before we begin to blame KCCA and ask KCCA to act, let us Kodeko as individuals and say, what am I as an individual doing to create the situation we see today? When you wake up and in of all places in Kampala, for you choose that you live in a wetland. As one minister once said, are you frogs? You choose that of all places you're going to live in a wetland. Believe you me, you are contributing to the flooding of this city. And you're leaving it for your children and your children's children. You don't have to wait for KCCA to slap you on the wrist. Now let's come to KCCA. Are we doing what should be done to ensure that we avert these floods? Yes, we are. But your actions and my actions, our actions as KCCA, pale in comparison to what you are doing to make sure the situation is bad. The other day was a video running online. It was more viral than what you saw yesterday of the guy pouring plastic and polythene papers in the Chibwa channel with a policeman watching over them.
Yes.
It's just that that one video was taken and sent. But that is happening even now as I speak.
There is more.
There's more happening. And you expect that the Chibwa channel will serve its purpose? No. Certainly not. So let's start by asking ourselves, are we behaving like people in the city? Or are we behaving like folks in a bush? When we start from there, then now we have the locus stand. We have the wherewithal to say, okay, I am doing the right thing. We are all doing the right thing. But how come KCCA is doing the wrong thing?
Okay, now there is the question about the drainage system and of course what we do, like you said, as individuals that contributes to the flooding we see when it rains.
True.
But let's go back to, for instance, yesterday, the buildings, Forest Mall, Lugogo Mall, what we saw there, honestly speaking, I never thought that a place like that could flood. Because I thought that the mechanisms that were needed to be put in place before construction even ever occurred there were done. So what went wrong?
If you have lived in this city for as long as possibly I have, close 50 years, where Forest Mall was a beautiful swamp between Naguru and Kololo.
Yes.
So this owner of the facility may have had the greatest building drawings, possibly approved by authorities, but when it comes to the actual implementation, and that's the whole thing, it's about the moral turpitude of we as Ugandans. You present drawings, they are approved, and what you put on the ground is different from what you presented in drawings. When you indicate that, for me, my basement is going to have 1,000 bags of cement, your workers will put 800. At the beginning, it may appear like it's normal, but those 200 which you do not put there will come to bite you. So let us learn to do things rightly and properly using science and following meticulous procedures. But suffice it to say, it's deplorable that in our city we have situations that we saw yesterday.
Yes.
But it also is an indication of what has since happened. I mean, the city has changed. What used to be places that would sap up the water, green spaces and all, now we have concrete all over the place. So what you see is a consequence of development.
Yes.
But perhaps what we are looking at as KCCA is to try and put this development in a synchronized manner, that we all abide by a certain master plan. And there is a master plan indeed.
Can you tell us about the master plan?
There is the Kampala drainage master plan, actually, that has been being morphed over the years. The challenge, which has always been our challenge, is the financing, to ensure that we build, like you see, we have the Rubiji project and Nankamiro.
Where is Nankamiro?
It's in Bwaise there, around the northern bypass.
Oh, yes.
If you see how we have managed to build the embankments there, that's why you see less and less flooding in places like Bwaise, which were the quintessential postcard image of Kampala when it rained.
Actually, whenever it rained, those are the places where we expected flooding, not Forest Mall.
Now it doesn't flood in Bwaise. Why? Because we have worked on the Rubiji and Nankamiro areas. We could have worked on 7 other places because there are 9 major catchment swamps around Kampala that would avert the situation of flooding. But we could only, at the moment, we only have financing for those 2. And even those 2 will not yet complete because we are still lacking a bit of money. So there's a bit of financing that we require as KCCA. But as we do that and clamor for more financing, can we as individual dwellers in the city behave responsibly and not exacerbate and already bad problem?
So now that we know that each and every Ugandan, to a degree, contributes to the bad drainage system that we have, what do we do? How do we move from here?
A lot is being done. Olive, you will also recognize that Kampala as it is now one huge construction site. If you look down Benchiwanuka and the low-lying areas of downtown Kampala, we are having that construction going on, which is almost complete. If you go to this other side where I come from, in Nakawa area, Spring Road, Port Bay Road, Old Port Bay Road, the Nakawa Junction areas, Spear Motors, all those are now huge construction places because the roads are being rehabilitated. We have a contractor mobilizing in industrial area on 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th streets. You have on this other side of you'd say towards after Natete, Busega area, you have works going on around Old Bubende Road and the other places in Lunguja. You have construction going on, across of roads. So with the construction of roads, which will come with bigger and better drainage, I must say, there's going to be that level of disruption. This disruption, we have to contend with it. But like I always give this analogy, what we're witnessing now is some eggs being broken so that a good omelette can be served. So we have to contend and bear with us. That's what exactly has to take place. So it's not all gloom and doom, Olive. There's work going on. It will take quite a while. But yes, as that happens, there will be that level of inconvenience. And that's why when the rains came in, as cases here, we issued guidelines. We said, let us start by being safe as individuals. If you're a motorist and it's raining like yesterday it did, are your headlamps working so that you're able to have visibility and someone is able to see you? Are your wipers working? As an individual, are your wipers working? If you must walk and you're a pedestrian, do you really have, you can only walk when you must, but do you really have to walk when it's still soggy and wet on the ground? Because you need to watch where your foot is going. There was an unfortunate incident which we regret when a lady coming from a market in Nakawa fell through
around the traffic lights.
Exactly, fell through an open manhole, and as we say today, her children are orphans, her husband is a widow.
Yes.
That is not something we'd wish for anyone.
So what you're trying to say is that what happened yesterday was partly caused by the ongoing construction that is taking place in different parts of the city.
You would say, to a large
Okay.
extent. So there's a lot of activities taking place. It cannot be one reason. It cannot be one cause. There is a multiplicity of causes. But what we try to do, and we have this conversation, Olive, is to say, can we try to minimize the causes to the greatest extent ever?
So now that we cannot hold every Ugandan accountable, we can't go to each and everyone and tell them, you know what, that Kavera, that bottle, that plastic bottle that you're throwing, it will cause this.
Did you say we can't? There's millions of people watching you this morning.
No. I was
If you send that message to them,
what I'm
that
saying,
million people will tell their 5 children each, who then will tell their 5 friends each.
Okay,
and
let me
let
me rephrase. We may not be in position to go door to door.
True.
And ask every Ugandan to not dump,
Litter.
to not litter. So if we can't do that, we can't go door to door, what plan does KCCA have to ensure that this is averted or is under control?
I know what you're headed to. You're saying, what enforcement measures do you have to ensure that people abide by these rules?
Yes,
Olive,
it is just a play on the words.
KCCA does not have enforcement as a first resort. By the time we unleash unto you our tall and short men that you call enforcement officers, it is as a result of having tried all other means and getting to a point where we say, now let us enforce. It's not something we desire, because when we enforce, we use a bit of force, and that's what it says, enforcement. And the moment we put in some force, same you, Olive, and others watching you, overnight become human rights activists. Oh, SKCC is now using brute force. It's now arresting people for just throwing a bottle. Can you imagine? They just banned someone on a pickup for throwing a bottle on the street. Yes. By the time I could have been somewhere right now, elsewhere. But I came to this program because you offered me an opportunity to teach the thousands or hundreds of thousands watching you this morning that littering is bad. So we're doing everything that we can humanly. But when all that fades, as they say, when symptoms persist, then we'll bring in our brute force. But that's not a place we want to start. We want people to recognize that just as you want a smart city from KCCA, you are equally responsible to be storing a smart city unto yourself.
I feel like, I know in the beginning you said we should not use each other's scapegoat, but I still feel like you're trying to...
Scapegoat is all thing. And run away from responsibility.
You kind of stopped me from making KCCA the scapegoat, but now you're making all of us. And to a degree, yes, you have a point. Ugandans have contributed.
I need to guilt trip everybody.
Thank you so much.
Us to realize
but now
that
we are also going to guilt trip you, because if you say that you bring in your enforcement when everything Umganda gambe chizimba chisambye dagala, when everything has failed, I still feel like you are trying to treat cancer when it is at stage 4. Why are you waiting for it to fester? What did you do earlier on to ensure that it didn't happen? Because we've had conversations about planning, okay? The city was formed many years ago.
True.
But as a result of development, we have seen things like arcades springing up. And this is where also flooding takes place in most cases when it rains. And it begs still for the question, what these licenses, when you're giving them, do you really have people that go on site to ensure that proper work is done, that the drainage system is being catered to before a building is up? Or you give the license, money changes hands, and everyone is happy?
That allegation, you can only make it with a bit of proof. But suffice it to say, Olive.
Thank you for calling it an allegation, because...
I'm sure you are an admirer of a lady called Michelle Obama.
Definitely.
She wrote in her book and said, power does not change a man. If anything, it reveals who this man actually is. That you, Olive, the things that you do, the way you are, who you are, when you get into positions of responsibility, I wish you well. If in 20 years you are announced as the executive director of Kampala Capital City Authority, you have a chance. It looks like it's a position ring-fenced for ladies.
Wow.
That position unto you would not change who you are. It would, if anything, expose who you actually have always been. So let's get down to an ordinary Kampalans. You always hear the thing. When someone says, ask them whether, how they built. They built how they build how they feel, not so much what the regulations say. They are so mean, even to the next door neighbor, that they will not stop at anything to build inches into what should have been a community road. When such a person who builds wantonly, as we have seen in the new neighborhoods coming up in Chira and other places, when that person gets a little more money and now they can afford to build an arcade, you think now they will abide by rules and regulations?
So does that mean that the enforcement agency is weak?
You would say partly, but also it's what it is faced against. Let me give you an example. Folks who build arcades in this town are not ordinary folks like you and I, Oliver. They have a bit of money
and
some
connections.
connections.
Yes.
Our enforcement officers are armed with, at most, a baton, plastic baton, and some rusted handcuffs. You come to a site that's guarded by the National Guard and possibly the police, and they deny you access.
Your hands are tied.
You are in a boxing ring with your hands tied and your opponent is Mike Tyson.
And at the end of the day, what we see on the screen is what we get.
Absolutely.
So
you see, I want to underscore, and that's what brought me here this morning, to say, you can scapegoat all you want, blame a faceless organization called KCCA, point at City Hall.
No, it has a face. You're here.
Here I am, yes, but not quite a handsome face. Point at your fingers to anything, but for as long as you behave the way you behave, and you allow thy neighbor to behave the way they do. Because we know these guys who encroach on wetlands. In Chinawataka Swamp, I keep telling this story whenever I have an opportunity. When I just joined KCCA, 2 weeks into the role, I went to a public hearing at Ministry of what?
Of what?
Of Lands. There was a public hearing. You know what the subject was? Freehold titles in Chinawataka Swamp. Chinawataka Swamp gets water from Mbuya, Chireka, Chambu. 63 freehold titles in that place. Freehold meaning people have passioned up the whole swamp. The rich are attacking it from this side, the poor are attacking it from the other side. Chinawataka Swamp is just in name, it's not there anymore. So where does the water from Chambogo end up? It ends up on Ginger Road where you saw the flooding yesterday. When you go to the Ibunga Soya, that swamp that should be taking stuff from Buziga, from Muyenga, and with the Bunga here. It's flooded right there at Soya stage. You know why? Because the entire swamp has been claimed and encroached on by we humans. Now, you would say, what is KCCA doing? And these characters dump their heels and heels of maram in the dead of the night, complete armed. We have had our law enforcement officers beaten on duty. Olive, is there a job worth dying for?
No.
Thank you. So our enforcement officers,
job worth dying for.
You know, our enforcement officers are like you. They have family, they have lives, and all that. And we are saying, when they say, Simon, genda kumukutu, and talk about these things. And guess what? We know them. They are our relatives. They are our brothers. They are our fathers.
They are leaders.
We meet them in bars and joints and they buy us rounds of drinks and we emulate and support them. We find them in church and they sit in front pews and they are giving huge donations, but we never call them out. I said I went for a public hearing, which meant that even media houses were invited. I can swear to you, Olive, not a single media house in this country listed out the names of the 63. I want to dare you. I give you the names of the 63 title holders in Chinawataka Swamp, and you publish them on UBC TV. That possibly could be the last day you are appearing on this program. That is how our society has gotten, and that's why I'm bringing it to you. I came here today to look into the camera and look into Ugandans' faces and say, we are what we are. KCCA can only do so much for as long as we do not abide by the rules set. I mean, what this country has is regulation. Did you know, Olive, that there is an ordinance called the Kampala City Child Protection Ordinance 2020
Yes.
that bars you and I from giving arms to street children?
That's true.
That being on the street as a street child begging is actually criminal. But haven't you seen street children begging from the roundup, the junction opposite Chira Road Police Station? A police station where there is law and order enforcement. Children are...
Simon, is that we have regulations on paper, but they're not working. And the people who would like to maybe enforce sometimes find themselves like KCCA, where between a rock and a hard place.
The same way I keep giving this analogy.
And this before you give that analogy, this makes me sad as a Ugandan, because if an enforcement agency is saying I'm between a rock and a hard place, my hands are tied, I'm helpless, then what are we going to do? What's the way forward?
Because, Olive, we operate in an environment that pervades these things. Olive, I'll give an example. There is not a single talk show on the BBC that lasts more than 30 minutes. There is not a single talk show on Ugandan TV that is 30 minutes and below. It's always above. Because we just love to talk and like that is our culture.
Oh,
so
wow.
we also operate in these kind of cultures. Olive, the church has had 10 commandments. You remember the day Moses picked them up from Mount Sinai in Egypt?
Yes.
How many millennia ago?
2000?
Every single Sunday there is church. Every single day there is a pastor preaching. Every junction now in Kampala has someone preaching against the 10 commandments. We know them. Don't lie, don't kill, don't steal. Tell me, don't we have overcrowded prisons? And many people who have committed crime and they're not actually in prison? Don't we know that we are breaking the commandments? Same thing with our laws and ordinances that Kampala Capital City Authority has enforced. That everybody knows, we have legislation is all over the place. But our culture as Ugandans, as I conclude, sorry, I like telling stories. Someone said at a funeral recently that death, siteka. You know, people say, chateka, you have to die. Like I said, no, in Uganda, death siteka. Because of a many bamateka, bobe banji. If it was a taker, people would defy that law. They would break the law and not die. But death is part of life. For me, that was a desperate statement to indicate the level of lawlessness we have become as a people. That if to die was to break a law, that if to die was a law, that you know, it's a law to die, many people would break that law because we see them every single day, Olive. Right outside here on Nile Avenue, where you are situated, you'll find government-plated vehicles parked in the green grass islands, riding and driving roughshod on the opposite side of traffic, headed to God knows where. That's a culture. Until we speak to ourselves, of course now people are saying, but look at Simon, what he's talking about. There must be leadership. KCCA must offer leadership. And yes, in offering leadership, it's getting folks like myself who are willing to come on a platform like yours, Olive, and capitulate and say, like they say on some backs of many cars, twandikoze na yabo. We would have been extremely effective.
Effective, yes.
But the circumstances in which we work are shackling, sadly.
Well, we will have a look at the poll question for the day, and the question we are asking you to share your views on how government can fix the drainage challenge in Kampala to combat floods in the Central Business District. You can reach us on WhatsApp 0709602592, and if you are on the X app, the hashtag is UBCGMU. And again, we are asking you to share your views on how government can fix the drainage challenge in Kampala to combat floods in the Central Business District. I'm having this conversation with the spokesperson of Kampala Capital City Authority, Mr. Simon Kasiate. Now, Mr. Simon Kasiate is I know someone out there viewing, you might be saying that, okay, he has done a good job of defending KCCA. Because he says that they want to work, they want to enforce, that these permits are issued to, let's say, buildings like Forest Mall and many others, and sometimes they find that, yes, what was on paper, what was promised by the contractor is not actually what was done on site. If you promise to put a certain amount of bags of cement as you're starting construction of the foundation, you would find that someone decided to cut a problem, but still I'm finding a challenge believing that KCCA is entirely 100% helpless. I feel like someone is sleeping on the job somewhere.
You're right, Olive, but also wrong. At no time have I said we're helpless.
Well, you don't have to say the word, but everything you've said, many of what you said, of course, you didn't lie. There are things you've said, and anyone who lives in this country or in this city knows them to be true. But at the end of the day, I still feel like, no, there has to be something you can do, because there has to be a way forward, and that's what I'm coming to. What do we do? How do we move on from here?
My hands in the air and say there's nothing we can do. So I just explained to you that this city is one huge construction site.
I understand
that. There are 33 roads that we are working on currently, not just repairing, but rehabilitating and building afresh. And these roads, can I just break down for you what they will have?
Okay, before you do that.
Huge covered drainages.
Okay.
The word is huge covered drainage. Let's start from there. Huge as they may be, for as long as you continue littering the way you are littering in Kampala, 5 years down the road, we'll be back where we are now, or even in a worse place.
Now, when you talk about littering, let's just look at that. I've seen a few streets with garbage bins, yes, but there are still not that many. I can walk a stretch of Kampala Road and they won't be like on every corner. So if you're telling me not to litter, I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying we should litter. But if you're saying that one of the problems we have is littering, what mechanisms has KCCA put in place to ensure that the littering is almost non-existent? Because if I'm going to walk 10 blocks and I don't find a garbage bin, and I'm not cultured enough to know that if my bottle of water is empty and there is no dustbin, I should hold on to it until I get to a place where I can dump it, I will just throw it on the street. But if you put it in my face, maybe that's a start.
You're very right. Putting garbage bins all over the city at close intervals is one of the things that KCCA has done in the past and should continue to do. The challenge we've had, and I keep giving the example right outside your gate here, there were garbage skips. Are they there anymore?
No.
We've had to improvise and use concrete ones. You know why? Because the metallic ones we put there, we store them. You and I store them. The same way we steal solar panels, bulbs and batteries outside the fence of UBC with your police and all the other security infrastructure. That's the time I told Chirab. I said, Chirab, when governments were falling in the past, the number one place to first capture was the national broadcaster.
And I think that's what is happening even if you look at West Africa and what has been happening.
That means therefore the national broadcaster must have impeccable security around it. So where do these people come from who steal your solar lights outside your gate?
And where is the security?
So we have vandalized and stolen infrastructure such as garbage bins. We steal and vandalize manhole covers. That's why the other woman fell through a hole. There's no manhole that is created without a cover by KCCA.
Actually, speaking about manholes, I remember that that case is not alone, by the way. There was a manhole around Chikubo, just outside Chikubo. And for a long time, it had become a death trap. I remember a time when border borders would drown in there,
Exactly.
bikes and whatnot. And if you say they have stolen them, okay, sorry. The covers have been stolen. But how long does it take you to get another cover and cover that manhole?
Thank you. Beautiful question. Olive, KCCA does not have a product on the shelf. We don't manufacture, we are not Coca-Cola, we don't make soda. We are not Hot Loaf, we don't have bread that we manufacture and sell and get money. The money we have and use is from the consolidated fund. The money in the consolidated fund comes from you and I, the taxpayers. So Olive, what you are saying is, Mwemube manholes, you steal garbage.
No,
whatever,
that's not what
and
I'm
then
saying.
KCCA continues to go to my friend Mr. Gobi with a begging bow and say, Mr. Gobi, please add us more money to replace the garbage bins that were stolen by Olive and Simon.
So if the manholes were, the covers of manholes are being stolen,
Wait a minute. So I'm coming back to my
why
original
don't you
statement.
come up with something that can't be stolen? There has to be a solution to everything.
Chinua Achebe writes in his book, Things Fall Apart, that the more the hunter learns to shoot without missing, the more the birds learn how to fly without patching. Whatever we have put in place, we thought, oh, we're going to put the solar panels up, and we bury the batteries in the ground. I swear to you, go down there, they dig them out of the ground and exhume.
Anyway, we have some views coming in from our
It's
viewers on social media. And this one says, good morning, Olive and Mr. Simon Kasiate. About the poor drainage system, though construction is going on, much effort is needed. If Kampala, the face of our country, looks that ugly when it rains, then we are not safe at all. If KCCA uses the seriousness, power and enforcement they use while arresting street vendors and hawkers around the city to construct good standard drainage system, trust me, Kampala would have been a nice city today. But all their eyes are on hawkers and street vendors, leaving out real issues that benefit the country. Let them major in major. Let them
major in majors and minor in minors.
Majors and yes, in majors and minor in minors. This is from Cricket Derek Gagamel from Makindye, Luafu, and I'm sure you're burning to say something.
No,
about
what a
that,
beautiful comment. I must comment. A beautiful comment.
Okay, briefly, because I have others.
Beautiful comment.
Okay.
I must say, have you ever had a toothache?
Yes.
You would have wished it was a headache. Have you ever had a migraine? You would have wished it was a pain on your finger. Have you ever had a tunuka?
What are you saying?
In other words, every part of your body pains badly and debilitatingly when that pain comes. The pain the hawkers cause to this city is as debilitating and crippling as the pain the floods cause us. So we are not measuring in majors and minoring in minors. Every part of the fabric of this city is a concern to KCCA, and we will use every force that we can to avert the situation. But can you imagine if we had beautiful boulevards and there was no flooding, but the city and the streets were flooded by hawkers?
I feel like you're comparing apples and oranges here.
They're
Because
all fruits.
hawkers may contribute to a dirty city, and not that we want that, but floods can actually kill us.
So can hawkers.
Actually, you're comparing apples and something I can't think of
Fruits
right
and
now.
Let's proceed.
So anyway, this one says, this is Smart Leon, 17, Kalanzi Jamal from Kawempe. And he says, thank you for the show. Before we blame the government and KCCA for the poor drainage system in Kampala, we should first check ourselves as citizens. The poor disposal of garbage, which already ends up in the already inadequate drainage channels, which causes blockage and hence flooding. But if we could get involved in community work, that is cleaning trenches among others, I think the poor drainage system in Kampala can be reduced, and maybe educating people about the poor drainage system can also help in the reduction of this. I'm sure Simon is happy about that. But this one says, in order to have these systems rehabilitated, there should be multi-stakeholder engagement in planning and land allocation. Ugandan youth need to be acquainted with patriotism, including protection of the environment. MDAs like NEMA, KCCA, National Water and Sewerage Corporation, and any other municipal leaders should be seen to be working together to improve the infrastructure. Furthermore, State House should distance itself from some of the untouchable figures who do things in unlawful manner, including having land titles in wetlands. And he says, thank you for always bringing up such matters of national importance. Thank you so much, Bruno Ignatius Namisi. And this one says, individual people should be responsible and stop littering. KCCA, stop corruption. Reduce on your allowance and work on the roads. Stop allowing people to build in swampy places. This is Dr. Mebo, and she says government should wake up and prioritize roads and do the work and finish. Finance the roads and complete the projects. Many views are coming through, but I won't be able to read all of them. I will just add this. This one says, I'm thinking, what's happening is only corruption of the highest degree. The Lord Mayor Kampala is a good lawyer and politician who makes everything political. There is a lot he blames on the government, yet he has failed administering Kampala issues. Is KCCA and not aware of the rich who are buying those swamps?
Beautiful comments in there. Dr. Mebo talks about corruption, and I can't agree with her more. At KCCA, we have a zero tolerance stance to corruption. And if there is anyone that can provide us with empirical evidence of corruption between our staff and anyone else, believe you me, we will attend to that with the highest brute of the enforcement that we have to ensure that we avert it. Challenge is, you know, corruption. Let's say money exchanging hands. The one receiving is as corrupt as the one
giving. That's true.
Can we just do things right? But you know, even believe you me, someone calls you seeking for information about trading license. You offer them the information and even guide them how they should proceed. And guy says, hey, Badange, you've done such a good thing. Where you make? You're leading me onto temptation. And you know, that phone call comes through on a Monday when children are going back to school.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
What I'm trying to underscore is that we have a zero tolerance stance
for corruption. Is that on paper or in practice?
It is in practice to the extent that you and I facilitate KCCA to fight graft. The moment you start inducing our field staff, the moment you start dangling carrots before them, Banangi, KCCA is not a communion of saints.
It is.
It is people like you and I. So people need to understand that you lead them onto temptation, they find themselves in that way. Be steadfast, follow the rule book, and should you be frustrated because you're following the rule book, there are avenues for reporting, and we'll do that. Someone talked about KCCA must clean the channels, must clean the roads and all, and we do. Frankly speaking, I need us to put our hands together for the over 4,000 frontline workers that we have on the road every single day. Those women, those young people that are on the road every single morning. Come rain, come shine, sweeping it, cleaning it, desilting the drainage channels, and they are there every single day. Naye, as they say, olemwa. They clean, you pour. They clean, you litter. They clean, you dump.
Well, Mr. Kasiate, I know we can have this conversation until the chicken come home to roost. But thank you so much for coming through and clearing the air regarding Kampala's drainage system. I'm sure there is still a deeper conversation there. And but as he has said, each one of us has a collective responsibility in averting some of the challenges that we are facing right now. So if that water bottle that you throw out of your car, that kavera that you throw on the street ends up in our drainage channel channels. And at the end of the day, we can end up with what we saw yesterday. Of course, he has tried to run away from the questions about licenses and whatnot, but we will be bringing him back here when need be. And for now, thank you so much for joining this conversation. Thank you so much for your views. The conversation remains and continues
I won't
online.
have a closing remark.
I thought that was your closing. Your closing. Okay, in 3 seconds.
Today is the 21st of September.
Yes.
According to geography, it's the equinox, where the sun is over the equator. We have 2 days in a year in Uganda, which is an equinox. And that marks a rainy season in March and in September. So today is the hump day of the rainy season, the second one in the year. Brace yourself. So if you thought the rain was bad yesterday, it may get worse today and tomorrow. So as we now are fully aware, let us prepare accordingly as KCCA does its work. You too, as an individual Kampala dweller, try to live on the safe side. We do not want to take responsibility of a fatality because of the rains.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for keeping it. Good morning, Uganda. This is Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, the national broadcaster. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
My name is Atube Richard, a member of a group called Kanyope, located in Bungatira sub-county. This group started in 2008, but the Prel Knoll project started supporting us in 2009. The project has offered us training on farming, and the training we got has helped us immensely. We used to farm in a traditional way, planting a variety of crops. But when the team from Prel Knoll approached us, they asked us to choose particular seeds to grow which can yield very well in our area. We chose groundnuts and rice, which we are growing. With this kind of farming, the project also taught us how to sell as a group after finding a market. The support from the project has been so good to us.
What's the best kind of business to invest in? One that connects Ugandans border to border with high-speed broadband 4G and is the first to launch 5G? What about one of the largest corporate income taxpayers in our country? Oh, the fastest growing telecom in the last 5 years. Wow! Well, here's a chance to invest in it all. Take part in Airtel's initial public offering today for as little as 100 Ugandan shillings per share. Remember, a retail investor gets 5 incentive shares for every 100 they buy and 6 incentive shares if they purchase using Airtel Money. Dial star 185 star 85 hash now to get started.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
It's still a cold kind of atmosphere in Uganda and in Kampala majorly. But good morning again, and good morning to all of you. Many thanks for joining us. It's time for the Good Morning Uganda business update of the day. Well, yesterday when you look back at some of the events that were happening, lots of businesses were affected, especially Ugandan businesses that do operate, that is outdoor. And one of the reasons as to why that did happen is because of the rains that were showering all over the capital. But of course, we do side with all the business people as they keep on, building up onto some of those losses that they did receive yesterday. As we start off with our business update this morning, though, we are definitely going to be looking at the matters to do with National Social Security Fund, as the NSSF revenue has increased by 15%, according to NSSF. Now, the increase of 15% is from 1.9 trillion Ugandan shillings to 2.2 trillion Ugandan shillings for the financial year 2022-2023. While releasing the fund's performance report for the year 2023, the NSSF Managing Director, Mr. Patrick Ayota, attributed the growth to increased earnings in interest from 1.7 trillion Ugandan shillings to 2 trillion Ugandan shillings. So he also says that though the investment environment in Uganda and the region was challenging over the last financial year, the Ugandans have been able to increase, or the fund has been able to increase the revenue. And of course, these remittances have grown remarkably well. And this is also an opportunity or showing signs that the fund is remaining profitable, or NSSF savings are growing each other year. Now, the rate of compliance slightly improved from 55% to 57% in the financial year 2022 to 2023. And then furthermore, there is the new vision 2035, which is the bedrock of the long-term strategic plan for NSSF, where the fund wants to grow to 50 trillion Ugandan shillings. So by 2035, that is where the fund wants to grow this particular savings as well. Shall it be possible? I want to believe so, but we will wait and see what strategies will be laid to make that happen. All right, as we are summing up with the business, though, we now talk matters Uganda's tourism industry. The tourism industry is still recovering from the shocks of COVID-19. Reason being, there were numbers of tourists who were restricted from coming to Uganda during such a time, and therefore the government is actually seeking to increase tourism earnings to 5 billion by 2028. When you look at this, before COVID-19 hit us, Uganda was was averagely earning close to $1.6 billion. That is annually from the tourism sector. So that is why they want to increase these earnings now, that by 2028 the government wants to see that we have 5 billion of the tourism generated incomes as well. Now, with this particular one, because of the promising increase in inflow of foreign exchange, we hope that at least by 2028 these figures will be idealistic. And that is why the tourism operators, especially the domestic tour operators, are also having various engagements with the government to ensure that we boost tourism both locally and internationally. So why not? Maybe these figures will be realistic with time if you look at it in the perspective of the Ministry of Finance. So when you look at it in 2022, the tourism industry was averaging around 260 million in the quarter that ended March, compared to 238 million in the same period in 2022. So 2023 here, there has been a slight increase. So that means we are moving so well, and it's not something to worry about. Now, lastly, from GMU Business Update, we look at the forex market to see how various currencies were trending as close of business yesterday. The US dollar did close for those buying at 3,739.96. Then selling was 3,749.96 as well. The Great Britain pound buying closed at 4,617.72, while selling at 4,630.07. The euro, on the other hand, was buying at 3,995.77 while selling at 4,006.45 shillings. The Kenyan shillings buying at 25.40 while selling at 25.47 shillings. The Tanzanian shilling, on the other hand, buying was at 1.49 shillings while selling at 1.49 shillings as well. Then the South African rand buying was at 197.61 shillings while selling at 198.14 shillings. And now our focus turns to the press review as we revisit the locals from Uganda, as well as looking at what is making headlines at the front pages in East Africa. The New Vision with the headline, tough ruling on Milo land sales. You can read more of that in the New Vision today. Furthermore, over 270 tender offers are in as Uganda cranes legend Barnabas Mwesiga dead. Read more about him. And then the experts analyze NSSF 7.5% growth as FDC wrangles, while the FDC wrangles planned. You can read more of that. Still, as the IGG probes 6,064 public servants over wealth, a pictorial of President Museveni receiving credentials of 4 new envoys is also in at the front pages of the New Vision. Now, crossing to the Daily Monitor, a government sends team of 70 to UN meet, which are those delegates that were sent. You can read more of those. More of that with the Daily Monitor. Downpour exposes Kampala's bare roads. More of that in the Daily Monitor, as UNEB is said to hire 60,000 exam invigilators. And then also, government is said to privatize Soroti Fruit Factory. Now, lastly, we cross to Kenya with the Daily Nation, as the Daily Nation is showing trouble in paradise, more when it comes to Kenyan politics. But then also a terror strike that changed our lives, the Westgate attack 10 years on. More of that with the Daily Nation, among other top stories. Then lastly, the Citizen in Tanzania. Clock ticking on Tanzania's coal business is the headline in the Citizen today. And then national judgment, XMP loses battle over 4 billion Tanzanian shillings estate, as in the national honor, CRDB named best Islamic bank in East Africa, as Samia assures investors as $311 million float glass factory commissioned in Tanzania. Well, that is it for GMU Business and the press review. It is now time for the traffic updates.
Thank you so much, Joram Paul Sonko, for that press review and, of course, the business news. Welcome back. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Welcome back from Good Morning Uganda, from where it started to where it is and where it is going, because we still have a lot that we are giving you this morning. But now let's look at the traffic updates. And today we are looking at the route of Bugolobi Portbell Road. But we start off from the route that comes from Chinawataka, that is Chireka Road, joining Portbell Road this morning. A few moments ago, there was a huge zone of red lines there, and the traffic was intense coming in from Chireka, feeding into the Portbell Road. But as I see now, it has gone down. But now looking at Portbell Road itself, the stretch that comes from Chitintali up until Bugolobi, there is a huge red zone coming through right at this intersection before Silver Springs Hotel, and but it loosens up a bit, and then there is a smooth flow of traffic up until you reach the intersection that takes you to Nakawa, and on the other side it takes you to Spring Road, which goes into Bugolobi town, and then of course continues all along Portbell Road into town. And this morning Spring Road actually looks very okay. There is a smooth flow of traffic. There is a little bit of traffic that is coming in from Katazamiti Road, but it is not worrying. So if you're coming from that side or going that side, you have no reason to worry. The road doesn't look bad at all. But now continuing with Spring Road and looking at Kataza C1. Kataza C1 is actually very clear, but Spring Road, as you join Bugolobi around the banks or around where the Absa Bank ATM is, there is traffic. The red zones are on both sides of the road. Luthuri Avenue is bringing in some bit of traffic as well. But Spring Road continues to have those deep red zones which are indicative of traffic this morning. So there you're going to lose quite some bit of time, because from what I'm seeing here, the stretch of the red zones continues on and on as you go along Spring Road. But now when we look at the roads in the surrounding areas like 5th Street, there is some traffic, yes, that is coming in from 5th Street, feeding into Spring Road, which means that the traffic around this area is not about to let up, because all the feeder roads that are coming through have traffic that they're feeding into the main road. So the whole section of Spring Road along Port Bell Road is actually filled with huge traffic. Unfortunately, if you're coming from that side of town, you're going to lose some time on the road this morning. But now when you reach the intersection that has 4th Street and feeding into Old Port Bell Road, that one there, the traffic lets up, and then the rest of the road actually shows that there is a smooth flow of traffic. 3rd Street is clear, and as you go along on Old Port Bell Road, then there is smooth flow of traffic as you approach Ginger Road. Actually, up until Ginger Road roundabout, there is smooth flow of traffic. Now, when we look at Ginger Road roundabout itself, there is a little bit of traffic coming through from the main Ginger Highway and feeding into the main Ginger Road as you proceed to head to the sides of Kampala Road. But actually here there is no reason to worry, because there is smooth flow of traffic around this area. And when we look at the neighboring areas like Yusuf Lule Road, it actually looks clear. Nile Avenue looks very clear. There is smooth flow of traffic around that zone, so you won't lose time on the road. There is a bit of traffic on Saidi Bare Avenue and Parliamentary Avenue, but nothing to worry about, nothing very concerning. Just a few sections here and there. And then King George 6 Way has traffic right from Ginger Road and feeding into Parliamentary Avenue. Now, as we look at Parliamentary Avenue, the areas around the Cafe Pub have some bit of traffic, but nothing too much. You will lose just a few minutes there, and then you should be able to move along. Now, looking at Kampala Road, part of the road actually looks clear. There is smooth flow of traffic there, and there is some bit of traffic coming in from roads like Entebbe Road, but nothing too serious. And when I look at the entire Kampala Road, actually it shows that there is a smooth flow of traffic around there, except if you're going to the areas of the square, there is some bit of traffic along the police GSI unit office and crossing into Uganda Road. But the rest of the roads and Kampala Road itself are safe to use this morning, because there is a smooth flow of traffic, as you can see on your screen. Thank you so much for keeping it Good Morning Uganda. This has been it for the traffic updates this morning. And up next is Agenda. Later on, we have sports for you. You are the most valuable player, for always tuning in to UBC every single morning. My name is Olive Monica Najuma.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Did you know that the Uganda flag was adopted on the 9th October 1962? This is the date that Uganda became independent from the British Empire. The Uganda flag was designed by Grace Stewart Katebariro Ibingira. It consists of 6 equal horizontal bands of black on top, yellow, red, black, yellow, and red at the bottom. A white disc is superimposed at the center and depicts the national symbol, a grey-crowned crane facing the hoist side. The colors of the Uganda flag have different meanings. Black stands for the people of Africa, yellow stripes stand for the sun shining brightly over the country, and the red stripes stand for the blood that connects the country's many people. The crested crane in the middle symbolizes the gentleness of the people of Uganda, and its raised leg represents forward movement of the country.